Now to an incredible find overseas, an elaborate series of stone monuments believed to have been hidden for thousands of years, not far from the famous site of Stonehenge.
Now, a new analysis shows that the 6-ton iconic altar stone at the heart of Stonehenge originated from northeastern Scotland rather than southwest Wales.
For more than 4,500 years, Stonehenge has stood in silence, its massive stones weathered by time, its purpose debated by generations of scholars. But for the first time in history, that silence has been broken. Using AI-powered 3D scanners capable of mapping stone surfaces down to fractions of a millimeter, researchers believed they were simply documenting erosion and tool marks. What the AI actually uncovered sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Hidden within the stones were signs of advanced acoustic engineering, mathematical precision embedded in the megaliths that should not exist for another 2,000 years, construction techniques unlike anything else from Neolithic Britain. And then came the most unsettling discovery of all. The oldest stones are the most perfectly crafted. The skill didn't evolve over time. It disappeared. As if the builders of Stonehenge didn't invent this knowledge, but inherited it from something far older. Something we no longer understand. Today we're breaking down exactly what the AI decoded, why researchers can't explain it, and why the truth buried inside Stonehenge may be far more shocking than anyone imagined. Before we reveal what was found, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because this isn't just a mystery story. It's a real incident. And some things were never meant to be found. Before we begin, understand this. Stonehenge sits on Salisbury Plain, roughly 88 miles southwest of London, a massive stone circle constructed around 2500 BCE. Sarsen stones standing nearly 30 feet tall, weighing up to 25 tons each. Blue stones hauled more than 150 miles from the Preseli Hills in Wales. The official story says Neolithic farmers, armed with antler picks, stone hammers, log rollers, and sheer religious motivation, dragged these megaliths into place over centuries. No metal tools, no wheels, no written language, no advanced mathematics. You already know all of that. What you don't know is what happened when a joint British-American research team decided to stop guessing and start scanning. Using ground-penetrating radar, aerial LiDAR, photogrammetry drones, and high-resolution 3D laser scanners, the team built a complete digital twin of the entire monument. Every groove, every tool mark, every surface irregularity, mapped down to fractions of a millimeter. Not just the standing stones, but the buried remnants, the fallen lintels, the surrounding terrain stretching miles in every direction. And then they did something no one had ever done before. They fed all of it, every scan, every measurement, every data point, into advanced neural networks trained to recognize patterns in ancient construction and acoustic engineering. What the AI returned did not just surprise the researchers. It unsettled them. Under microscopic analysis and three-dimensional surface reconstruction, the AI identified at least 5 distinct stone-working techniques used on the Sarsen stones. The first was expected: pecking and grinding with stone tools, standard Neolithic methods documented across prehistoric Britain. But even here, the results were uncomfortable. The AI measured curved surfaces with less than 2 millimeters of deviation across spans of more than 2 meters. That's roughly 2 millimeters over 6.5 feet, precision consistent across multiple stones, arranged to form a perfect circle. Achieving that level of uniformity implies geometric control that goes far beyond casual trial and error. Then came the second technique. Along specific surfaces, especially the lintels and the tongue and groove joints, The AI detected shaping so precise it defied known Neolithic methods. Dr. David Nash of the University of Brighton described the moment bluntly. He said the level of uniformity in the sarsen stones exceeded anything expected from traditional percussion and grinding. The curvature of the lintels implied systematic planning and controlled measurement. The AI compared these surface profiles against thousands of known Neolithic tool signatures across Britain. There were zero matches. Not a single comparable technique from anywhere in the British Isles during this period. The precision suggested either a controlled shaping method we have never identified, or planning and measurement capabilities that, according to conventional timelines, should not exist for another 2,000 years. Skeptics pushed back. Dr. Mike Parker Pearson, one of the leading Stonehenge researchers at University College London, argued that we should not confuse practical geometry with theoretical mathematics. The builders, he said, were skilled engineers who learned by doing, not abstract mathematicians. And if precision tool marks were the only anomaly, that argument might hold. But the precision was only the beginning. When the neural networks shifted focus to how sound moves through the stones, a researcher named Dr. Rupert Till at the University of Huddersfield nearly fell out of his chair. Stonehenge was not behaving like a temple. It was behaving like a machine. Dr. Rupert Till had long suspected that Stonehenge possessed unusual sonic characteristics. But when the AI completed its full acoustic analysis, what appeared on his screen went far beyond anything he had previously theorized. The algorithm detected that the precise spacing and shaping of the sarsen stones creates a phenomenon known as constructive interference. Sound waves bounce between the stones, reinforcing one another and amplifying at specific frequencies. This wasn't theoretical. The AI reconstructed exactly what the interior of Stonehenge would have sounded like 4,500 years ago, when all stones were standing. The result was astonishing. Voices, drums, or chanting within the range of 95 to 120 hertz. The frequency of a deep male voice or a large drum would have reverberated through the structure with an almost supernatural intensity. The stone circle wouldn't have echoed. It would have roared. But here's the catch. This effect was not accidental. The stones had to be positioned with extreme precision. Shift a single sarsen by even 1 meter, and the entire acoustic phenomenon collapses. The AI calculated the probability of this level of acoustic optimization occurring by random chance. Less than 1 in 10,000. Let that sink in. The builders of Stonehenge understood acoustic engineering principles that would not be formally documented until ancient Greece. Nearly 2,000 years later, somehow, using what we label as Neolithic technology, they positioned 25-ton megaliths to create cathedral-like sound amplification. Skeptics argue that any circular arrangement of tall stones will produce some acoustic effects, and that's true. But Dr. Till noted that Stonehenge's effects are not incidental. They are specific, targeted, and optimized for particular frequencies. The difference between a room that happens to echo and a concert hall designed by an engineer. And the acoustics weren't even the most impossible thing the AI uncovered. When the algorithms began mapping the geometry of the stone placement, a researcher at the University of Oxford saw numbers appear on her screen that forced her to call the rest of the team into the room. Mathematics, before mathematics. The AI mapped the exact positions of every stone, standing and fallen, and analyzed them for geometric relationships. What it found should not exist. The layout of Stonehenge contains Pythagorean triangles, right triangles with side ratios of 3 to 4 to 5. The theorem associated with Pythagoras would not be formally described until around 500 BCE roughly 2,000 years after Stonehenge was constructed. And this wasn't a single coincidence. The neural network identified at least 7 distinct Pythagorean relationships embedded in the monument, in the spacing between stone circles, in the alignment of the Aubrey holes relative to the Sarsen ring, and in the geometry connecting the station stones. 7. It gets worse. The AI also found evidence of precise knowledge of pi. The diameter and circumference of the Sarsen circle show a ratio of 3.14 to 1, accurate to within 99.7%. For comparison, the ancient Egyptians used 3.16, the Babylonians used 3.125. Neolithic Britain, supposedly a land of primitive farmers, got closer to the true value than either civilization. Mainstream researchers argue that Pythagorean relationships and approximations of pi can emerge naturally from basic geometric construction. Stretch a rope around a stake and these ratios can appear without conscious mathematical intent. That is a reasonable argument. But this is where things become deeply uncomfortable. The AI did not stop at geometry. It reconstructed the night sky as it appeared over Salisbury Plain in 2500 BCE and compared it to the precise placement of stones, buried post holes, and surrounding landscape features. Everyone knows the famous alignment. Stand at the center during the summer solstice, and the sun rises over the heelstone. That alignment has been documented for centuries. That is the surface layer. Beneath it, the AI discovered something far more complex. Stonehenge encodes the 18.6-year lunar cycle, the period it takes for the moon's maximum declination to complete a full oscillation. This is one of the most complex astronomical cycles observable from Earth. Recognizing it requires continuous observation of the moon over nearly 2 decades. The 4 station stones, positioned in a rectangle around the main circle, mark the extreme points of this lunar cycle with pinpoint accuracy. The AI calculated that achieving this alignment would require decades of systematic astronomical observation and careful calculation. Trial and error does not explain tracking a cycle that takes 18.6 years to complete. You cannot stumble into that with a rope and a stake. And then the team looked at the timeline. That's when everything fell apart. When the AI analyzed Stonehenge's construction phases, using tool marks, weathering patterns, and shaping techniques to distinguish which stones belonged to which period, it revealed a result that contradicts everything we believe about how societies develop. The earliest stones are the most precise. Read that again. The first Sarsen circle and trilithons erected around 2500 BCE display the tightest joints, the most sophisticated shaping, the most accurate astronomical alignments. These are the stones that contain the impossible acoustics, the embedded Pythagorean geometry, and the lunar tracking. Later additions, built over centuries, show declining quality, rougher shaping, looser joints, less accurate alignments. By the final construction phase around 1600 BCE, the work is markedly inferior. This is backwards. Skill is supposed to accumulate over time. At Stonehenge, the knowledge didn't grow over time. It vanished. The Egyptians built increasingly sophisticated pyramids. The Greeks refined their architecture generation after generation. Every civilization we know improves the more it builds. But Stonehenge breaks that rule. Here, the peak came first, followed by a slow, centuries-long decline. It is as if the original builders possessed knowledge later generations could not replicate. As if those who came after were maintaining traditions they no longer fully understood. As if Stonehenge was not created by people discovering monumental construction for the first time, but by inheritors of a legacy already slipping away. Dr. David Nash's team ran the tool mark analysis against more than 50,000 examples of Neolithic stonework from across Europe. The earliest Stonehenge marks clustered as statistical outliers. They resemble Bronze Age, or even later, craftsmanship, despite radiocarbon dates placing them firmly in the Neolithic. This creates a paradox no one has resolved. Either the dating is wrong, or the builders had capabilities far beyond what we attribute to their era. But the reversed timeline was not the final shock. When the AI turned its attention to how the stones were physically moved across the landscape, the entire transport theory began to collapse. The sarsen stones came from quarries roughly 25 miles north in the Marlborough Downs. The blue stones traveled more than 150 miles from Wales. Archaeology says log rollers, rope, and massive labor forces. The AI had a problem with that. Analyzing the stone's actual shapes, the neural networks found knobs, protrusions, and irregular forms that would make transport on logs a nightmare. Thousands of physics simulations were run. The result? A 92% probability the stones would tip, jam, or fall during transport over uneven Neolithic terrain. And yet, the scans show no transport damage. The protrusions are pristine. The carved surfaces remain razor-sharp. Either the shaping was done after erection, which seems unlikely given inaccessible surfaces, or the builders used transportation methods sophisticated enough to protect the stones. Methods we cannot identify, methods we cannot explain. The blue stones deepen the mystery. Chemical analysis shows they were not randomly collected. The builders traveled across the Preseli Hills, selecting specific stones from multiple outcrops, then hauling only those chosen stones all the way to Salisbury Plain. Why those stones? Some researchers believe they were chosen for their acoustic properties. They ring when struck. But the AI detected something else. When arranged as they are at Stonehenge, the blue stones create subtle magnetic anomalies, up to 2 nanoteslas, in the local geomagnetic field. How would Neolithic people even detect magnetism, let alone select stones for it, unless they already understood it? And the stones were still not the whole picture. Beneath Stonehenge itself, the AI found structures hidden underground for 4,500 years. Using ground-penetrating radar and LiDAR, the neural networks identified more than 200 previously unrecognized pits, post holes, and buried features, arranged in geometric patterns no human eye had ever connected. Stonehenge was not a standalone monument. It was the centerpiece of a vast ceremonial landscape stretching for miles. This is where things become truly unsettling. When researchers combined the acoustic analysis of the stones with the newly mapped landscape, they discovered that parts of the surrounding terrain are not entirely natural. Sections show evidence of massive earth moving. Artificial ridges and channels shaped on a megalithic scale. Those ridges funnel sound. Drumming, chanting, or horns sounded from specific points would be carried across the landscape and focused directly into the stone circle, where the sarsen stones would amplify it. To anyone standing inside, it would feel as though voices were rising from the earth itself. The AI estimated that shaping this landscape alone would require moving hundreds of thousands of cubic meters of earth, thousands of people working for decades, before a single stone was ever raised. Why invest that level of effort unless the exact location mattered? Unless they were following a master plan? This leads to the question haunting every researcher who has seen the data. What were they actually building? Some now propose that Stonehenge functioned as an astronomical computer, a physical calculating device for tracking celestial cycles and predicting eclipses. This would explain why it was modified for 1,500 years, and why later builders seemed less skilled. They were maintaining a machine they no longer fully understood. But there is a darker possibility. The 18.6-year lunar cycle Stonehenge tracks influences tides, and by extension, climate. Extreme points in this cycle correlate with floods, earthquakes, and severe weather events. The AI found that Stonehenge's alignments allow observers to predict when these extremes would occur. Not a temple, a warning system. A permanent record of dangerous celestial cycles carved into stone so the knowledge would survive, even if the people did not. And Stonehenge may not be alone. Göbekli Tepe, built 6,000 years earlier, appears to encode warnings about cosmic impacts. The Nebra sky disk tracks celestial events tied to climate shifts. Newgrange has acoustic properties rivaling Stonehenge. Karnak contains over 3,000 standing stones arranged in complex geometry. What if there was once a shared tradition across Neolithic Europe? A body of knowledge linking astronomy, catastrophe, and survival, encoded in stone because stone endures. Only about 5% of Stonehenge has been fully excavated. The AI has detected underground chambers and passages that remain unopened. Each year, scanning technology grows more powerful, and one fact refuses to go away. The earliest work at Stonehenge is the most advanced. The builders were not learning, they were remembering, and eventually, they forgot. Maybe the most shocking thing the AI revealed is not what ancient people couldn't do, but what they could do, what they knew, and what we have spent centuries refusing to see. So what do you think? Primitive farmers who got lucky, or the last echoes of something far older and far more advanced than we have ever been willing to admit?